Perfect.
So I was actually sent this as a suggestion. We had another topic, which we'll get to later, but as pilots, we tend to be mission oriented and we tend to want to be leaning forward as much as we can. And not just as pilots and just in life, it's very easy to just go along to get along and maybe not have boundaries and limitations and just let people push us into situations that we're not comfortable with. And one of the things you learn as you fly, and one of the things I learned as a pilot, is knowing when to say no. And not just knowing when to say no, but knowing how to say no. I'll give an example. Shortly after, I lost a very good friend in the B course, the F-16 basic course, due to G-induced loss of consciousness. And in the aftermath of that, I was having trouble sleeping. And one night I was, about to go do a BFM flight. And during pilot training, I didn't sleep at all. I mean, every night I was staying up and thinking about the flight of the next day, which was fine. I mean, not very healthy, but fine in a T6 or T38. But once you got to the F-16, it's big boy world. You're pulling 9Gs. I just lost a friend. So didn't sleep that night, came in, said, "Hey, boss, I'm taking myself off the schedule." And as a lieutenant, that's just something at the time you didn't think to do because you were scared of the consequences. You didn't want to, thrash the schedule because they'd already floated out of when you were doing your rides. And I'll never forget, we had a pilot meeting shortly thereafter, and the group commander's like, "Hey, what he did was smart, and you have to know when to say when." And that stuck with me through my career. And there's times where I wish I had said no, like Casmo just talked about. It's better to be on the ground wishing you were up there than the other way around. And I've talked about it with, some of the anxiety stuff that I had where I had other stuff on my mind. I went flying and I wished I hadn't because I spent a year trying to get myself out of that mindset, the anxiety that followed or the apprehension. But knowing when to say, "Hey, this is a bad situation. We couldn't go flying." For example, the thing where I was thinking about the dogs. Yes, that was an external factor I was thinking about, but the weather was a factor. We shouldn't have gone flying for the weather, and we actually ended up not doing anything worthwhile. And we become people pleasers, right? We want to say, "Hey, I'm go, 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 go. I'm always the guy, I don't want to get a reputation." But at the end of the day, it's your pink body in that seat. And sometimes you're responsible for other people. And someone has to be the person that goes, "You know what? I'm going to wait and we're not going to fly today." And unless it's like, no kidding, troops on the ground are dying in combat, that's okay. Because there's no reason to push it in training or in peacetime or even as commercial airline pilots, because, there was an old CEO that used to say there is no mission. There's no mission here. There's nothing that says you have to go flying. We can reschedule this flight. So caveat, unless people are dying on the ground and you're going into combat, and that's the only thing, because that's one thing where I'll say, "Hey, you got to say yes no matter what." However, there's times where even that you might say no, because are you worth more to the fight if you're good to go or if you kill yourself getting there? But knowing when to say no, knowing how to say no, and sometimes you could ask the question like, "Hey, is this a good idea? Should we consider these other factors before we keep going down this rabbit hole?" And sometimes it's just a matter of, "Hey, I'm drawing this line. My personal comfort has been exceeded and I'm not comfortable doing this and going flying." And you'll look at a lot of mishaps where if somebody had spoken up and said, "We shouldn't do this," or "I shouldn't do this," they'd be alive today. So that's kind of the mental health. It applies, worldwide. But guys, what do you think about that?
Yeah, man. I mean, I was like you in pilot training. I was go, 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 go. And it never dawned on me to even, not executing the schedule because, that's a written order until I got to my first fleet squadron. And our skipper at the time, great guy. He was going through a pretty nasty divorce. And in a all pilot meeting we had, he just said, "Hey guys, I'm going through a tough time right now." He said, "Don't be surprised if I take myself off the schedule." And he said, "And if any of you are going through anything and you need to take yourself off the schedule, you take yourself off the schedule." Like literally, that was it. Done. Period. Dot. And that was the first time it dawned on me, like, oh, we could do that. And I'm glad he said it because I was new, right? When you're new, it's yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, right? Because you're just trying to build your reputation as a producer, right? But as I got older and more experienced, and like all three of us have had you get back, you're like, I should not have taken off, kind of thing, right? You get that,
like 5 minutes into the flight, as soon as you take off, you're like, I shouldn't have done
bad
this.
idea, right? And so it just takes a couple of those, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I'm not going. And like remember when we were flying T-38, like there was the minimums and then there was gonky minimums. And I'm like, hey, no, I don't like that weather. I'm not going. And it's because
Yeah.
why put yourself in a sticky situation where you don't have to, right?
Well, also, even when you're in the air, the number one word any aspiring pilot or pilot needs to know is unable.
Yeah.
Because it's not just saying no to not go fly, but it's saying no to not put yourself in a position that you're not comfortable with. And that applies to ATC, because when you're new, right, you think, well, they're going to fly my jet, right? I'm going to get in trouble if I say unable. And it's like captain's authority, PIC authority, whatever you want to call it. It's you, not them. They are, in the control tower or wherever they're at RapCon, and they're just watching you. And sometimes they can be a big help, but sometimes they can put you in a bad situation. And it's not intentional. It's just they don't have they don't know what you know. The final decision authority is you. So don't ever be afraid to say unable. And then if it becomes a thing, it becomes a thing. But I'd rather say unable, because I knew that what they were doing was going to put me in a bad situation, than to go along with it. And then there's no recourse. I mean, you're putting both your certificate and your life on the line.
A wise man once said, man's got to know his limitations.
That's right. There it is. There it is.
I love him.
But and it's not just ATC too. I mean, there's examples of wingmen that have walked into bad situations because they were afraid to speak up, or co-pilots that were walked into bad situations because they were afraid to speak up. And sometimes you have to go, hey, if we do this, it is not going to end well. And you start with hey, what are you sure? I had a flight lead that said, always ask a cool question. But sometimes that cool question, if you know that you're going to put yourself in a dangerous or different situation, dude, just say no. It's easier said than done, but it's something you have to be comfortable doing.
Yeah, and I know we have people watching from all over the world. And I will say this, saying no, or having the confidence and the authority to say no, is very much a Western thing, because there are countries out there where it's much harder to say no. Which sucks, right? Because that's then you're really forcing things. But I don't know, the way I see it is like, I would rather have said no than be dead. Like at the end of the day, because I've read enough being a safety officer, and Mover, you've covered a lot. It's like you read through these things, you're like, this was such an easy fix. Like if
just took one, it's an error chain. It just takes one thing to break
it. Dude. Yeah. And dude, here's the thing. It's like, as an IP in the Hornet, there's been times when I'm like, you student, no. Like, I understand, like, you want to go, but I'm telling you, like, you're not going, because that's, like I said, we've all been there as a new guy.
It's easier as the IP than the student. And I think that's the courage you need to find. And I think we're doing a good job in general of saying, like, because there is a line, right? There is a line between I'm saying no for safety and I'm saying no for comfort, and comfort is one thing. If it's past your comfort level, let's figure out why it's past your comfort level. Is it because of safety, or is it because, well, I'm just not used to this yet? Okay, well, if it's because I'm not used to it yet, we can press forward, because you want to be out of your comfort zone at some point. But if you're uncomfortable with something because it's unsafe, that's when we need to speak up. And it doesn't matter. There's no rank in the air. There's no rank in the debrief in Western cultures.
Oh man, it's like being at 204 once. I hadn't flown the Hornet in like 4 weeks. Come in, I forget who it was. They're like, hey man, you want to go drop some lives? I was like, no, I just want to put the wheels up and down, dude. Like, no lie. Do not give me anything live on that jet.
Yeah.
Sorry, Casmo.
Casmo,
Cut you off.
yeah, what were you going to say?
No, well, it's two things, because you guys said it. One, to your point, Mover, about ATC can get you in trouble, and so you need to be able to know. There was just a near miss on a runway, I think, with a Southwest plane and like a corporate jet. And it was because ATC, the guy at ATC was doing like multiple jobs. And I hear it all the time. Like, the dude giving me my clearance is also ground and then also tower, you know? And he cleared one guy to line up and wait and cleared another guy to land. And then he got busy doing somebody's clearance. And the pilots were like, hey, are we still clear to land? Like, I'm pretty sure this guy's still out there. So being able to question that authority to some extent, you don't have to be a jerk about it, but yeah, just say, hey, are we still good with that? And then the second thing that Gonki kind of talked about, or really both of you, it's interesting because in the military, I think flying and our comfort level it's much more personal, because generally speaking, we're all in the same unit. We all kind of know each other. We all kind of at least pick up on, hey, Mover's got stuff going on. He's not where he normally is. And, it's easier to have that conversation. It's still hard, but it's easier to have that conversation. And when I went through recurrent recently with my commercial job, it was put out by the chief pilot, like, I don't want to hear about personal minimums, which was interesting because in the military, we talk about personal minimums like, hey, yes, it's legal, but it's not prudent weather. And his point was, there's one standard, and that's the company's standard, right? If you're not comfortable with that, then yes, you need to say something, but you're not canceling a flight just because, well, I'm not comfortable with this weather. Hey, if the weather's legal, that's the standard for the company. So it makes it a little bit more interesting conversation. But yeah, at the end of the day, you've got to know what you can handle, and then you've got to sort of like build upon that. And like you said, when you can, push your minimums, and push your boundaries into what you're comfortable with, because one day you're going to have to do it, and you don't want it to be the first time. It's like, when I have to do it, so yeah, something to think about. And I think that's important, I guess, to just follow that up, like in training, like when you're out there doing like your Cessna stuff and you're trying to build up to that career, like, go fly when it's, kind of skosh. Like, don't wait for it to just be perfectly blue to fly. Like, fly when it's legal, but still a little bit iffy.
Maybe take a safety pilot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, 100% take a safety pilot, like, go to that airport that's a little bit tougher than normal. Like, don't just pick the most random place when it's clear blue 22 and then try to go do airline stuff, because it's not going to be the same.
Well, and so this is the mental health minute. So not just from an aviation perspective, I think in general, being able to assign boundaries for yourself and for others, and not trying to be that people pleaser in general, will make you a much happier person. Because if you feel like, you're always going to let somebody down if you say no, or you feel like, that will weigh on you in the long run, versus I've got my standards. I'm a man of or woman of integrity. And if something makes me uncomfortable, and it's, the comfort, like you talked about, the reason I'm uncomfortable is because, the hair standing up on the back of my neck, then it's time to do something about that. And that any profession you're in, you have to be able to say, uncle, hey, I'm not doing this. And if that's, you have to be able to live with yourself at the end of the day for that decision that you made, but don't put yourself in a situation that's going to make you either lose your life, destroy something, hurt yourself, hurt others because you didn't say anything. Yeah. Gonki, you usually have something profound to say when I get to this point.
No, not today. I'm still stuck on that coronary thing.
Douglas,
just kidding.
from the
hey,
yeah, dude, what you got, man?
We forgot the background thing, right?
No, we're not done yet.
We're not done yet. Sorry,
we're not done
bad.
Yet. Come on, Douglas. We're on mental health.
As usual, you guys really covered a lot of the ground I would have suggested. I want to kind of emphasize what you said at the end there, Mover, that especially in the context of relationships, real world relationships, if you say no to somebody and it keeps you from resenting what you said yes about, or what you would have said yes about, you're better off. If you say, yeah, I'll help you out with that, or yeah, I'll do that, or I'll be there, and then you're pissed off about it for weeks afterward, you'd have been better off for both of you saying no. And that's something that I've struggled with over the years a lot.
Yeah, you don't want to resent people. You know, and what is it? No regrets.
Yeah,
You
no
know,
regrets.
don't have regrets for not having thing.
And
All
I'd rather
right.
somebody
Well,
said no to me under those conditions too.
yeah. I mean, people. You'll gain more respect as somebody with boundaries than if somebody you let people walk all over you. I mean,
Yeah,
that's just a
100%.
universal truth.